Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I want to share with you today how I store and organize my beads and my jewelry findings. And then after, I'm going to share with you how I use these items in my journal and album making and other things. So keep watching for that. So these storage bins I purchased at Michael's a couple of years ago. And I don't know if they still carry them, but if they don't, I know you can get them on Walmart online, and I think you can get the smaller one on Amazon. But anyway, they've been working really great for me, and I think the official name of these is the Creative Options Storage Rack System. So the medium size here, because I think there's one that's even larger, but this one is about 12 inches wide and 13 inches tall. The smaller one is 10.5 inches wide and 10.5 inches tall. And then it's about 5 inches deep, and I think the medium sized one is about 6 inches deep. I don't know, I actually forgot to measure that part, so I'm just kind of guessing. But anyway, they've been working really great for me, and I'm going to show you how I've stored all my items inside. But first, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. It'll be really appreciated. So one of my favorite things about these bins are the deep lids. So this one here, I have all of my seed beads. I do have a few crimping beads and a crimping tool for the rare occasion that I want to make a necklace or something, but for the most part, all I have in here are my seed beads. Now, the one thing nice about this deep lid is I can store this container unit. I get these at Michael's. I think they come 4 deep. I'm not sure, but I can store 4 tall and close the lids just absolutely fine. And I have the 2 here that are 3 deep, so I have plenty of room to grow. Now, these individual containers hold at least 2 tubes of seed beads, depending on the size. So this is a great way to store large quantity of beads. Now, if I just have a tube, I just leave them in the tubes. There's no reason to put them into a different storage container. These work just fine. Now, when they start to get empty, I will transfer them to one of these. I have a couple that have miscellaneous beads, and one that's more blues and greens and whatnot, and one that's more pinks. Or if there's something like this, I will just transfer any leftovers into this with the multicolors. Now, for smaller amounts, I use this little tray system here, and I also got this at Michael's, and this lid just lifts off. Now, it almost lays completely flat this way in this bin. If it weren't for these little ridges, it would lay completely flat. It's about a 1/16 of an inch too long. But I could still fit 2 of these here if I wanted, and put the tubes on top and have plenty of room to shut the lid. Now, this just lifts off, and these individual containers have screw-on lids, and they will fit 1 small tube of beads, maybe more depending on how tiny they are. So depending on which one empties first, if these empty first, I'll just transfer this tube into there. And so anyway, it's a great little system, and I love how many beads I can get in here. You can see there's quite a few. And so now I will show you the divided compartment portion of the bin. So this just opens like this. And these slide out, and you can see they have the little handle there to help them pull out. You can see you can divide these as small or as large as you want. Now, these 2 here are not creative option bins. These are recollection bins. They just happen to fit perfectly into here. I did have a mishap with one of the bins, and it got stepped on right after I purchased it. And, you know, it was on the floor. I was getting ready to sort. Things like that happen. It's not that they're not well made. I mean, you just put a lot of weight on them, and obviously, and they're empty. They're obviously going to break. And you can see I have them mostly sorted by color. Let me go ahead and open this one up so you can see. I also have some sorted by type. So these here, these natural wood looking beads here are different colors, but they're just all kind of the same type of bead. And then I also have a section here of bead strands that either I haven't torn apart yet or I don't want to tear apart yet. So for example, this one here, one of the reasons I bought this was that I loved the color combination with the greens and the coppers, and it was very inspiring to me. Now, if I were to separate this and divide it out, I would forget why I bought it in the first place. I would not have my inspiration in front of me, and it would get totally lost. So I think there's such a thing as over-organizing, and we don't want to forget the reason why we bought something in the first place. So we need to remember not to over-organize our items. So I have an extra bin here filled with my greens and blues. They just didn't fit in here, and so I decided to keep these all by color, because then when I need green and blue, I don't have to pull out this whole entire thing. So I just set this on top of my Creative Options bin, and all of these sit on the floor of my closet underneath the bottom shelf, and they're very easily accessible. And then I have another one that has all my alpha beads, and I've got these divided by letters, and you can see what a scam it is when you buy these, because look at all the Q's compared to the R's. Such a shame. And then I have my Creative Options bin that was to go in here. Now the reason I have it separate is originally when I started sorting beads, I had all my bright colored beads on the bottom here, but when I expanded my inventory and wanted to keep these separate from these, I didn't want to switch out compartments when I purchased the Michaels brand. I didn't want to have to switch everything into that and move everything to this. And so I just thought, well, why does it matter? So that's why this is out separate from the unit, just because I didn't want to take that time. And here I have all of my brightly colored beads and some word beads. And I do use these in projects. I don't go to these as often. And these are also some beads that are fun to use with the grandkids. So that's my bead storage. And I have these two on a shelf in a cabinet. And even though everything's not together, I know exactly where they are and have no trouble finding it when I need it. So this is what I use to store my charms. And I like using toolboxes and things that aren't necessarily created for crafters, because it's a lot less expensive than buying a bin at the craft store. So you can get these types of toolboxes at Lowe's and Home Depot and maybe even Walmart. So these divided compartments can just slide out, and then you can see, because of the grooves in there, these stay in place once one is pulled out, so they're not flopping around. And I've tried to divide my charms by category and theme as much as possible, but it's not, 100% necessary to me. It just kind of helps me find things more easy. So I have arrows and clocks, and I have some gothic charms here, some botanical, there's owls and leaves, Eiffel Towers in this one, and cooking, and maybe fairy category right there, some feathers. So the second bin here, I have some steampunk. I have these crystal charms. They're on a chain, but I can just take those off the chain and use them on a project, or I can just keep some of it on the chain and cut it apart. Charms that I have with specific themes like Christmas and Halloween, I keep with those like embellishments, and then also butterflies, bees, and ocean themed charms I also keep in those categories. This one here has more classic style beads, I would say. I have some pearls, and I have some teacups, some daisies. These little light bulbs here I use in boho type projects, like I did a travel trailer and use those to go string along the little vintage travel trailer that I made. So, so yeah, you can do lots of things with those. And the ladybugs and the numbers. So the numbers are just a fun way to just add some eclectic ephemera to your project. But I've also used them with a purpose. I've used them on October dailies as the numbers for the day of the month. So the last one has all of my bright colored charms, and some of these are very whimsical, some are fairy, some are boho. I even got a couple of cute little lollipops here that I purchased at a craft fair from a local artist. That just gives you an idea of how I store my charms, and so now I want to show you how I use these in my journal and album making. So I'm hoping to share with you as many different ideas as I can on how to use your beads and your charms and your jewelry findings. So that's kind of my intent of this portion of the video. I don't claim to have come up with the original ideas, and I know that this is the only ways you can use these things. I'm just trying to share with you what I have done, and hopefully you can come back to this and have all these different ideas in one video. Having said that, I am going to link a couple videos of projects that I've done and given away that has some good ideas there. So the first thing I want to share with you is something that I didn't even make myself. This junk journal was made for me by my good friend Kim, but I wanted to show you that she added beads to the notebook rings, and I thought, what a clever idea. So I'm definitely going to be doing that. And then this keychain was made by my good friend Deb, and she made her own cabochon and attached it to this really cute bell that has an anchor on it. But I thought, well, this inspired a couple things, because I thought, if you can make your own cabochon, why couldn't you just take a flat pebble that you found on the beach and put that on the bell? Or maybe you could make your own little, if you can alter a domino and put it on there, why can't you take like a ticket or something and do some mixed media on it and then attach that to a lightweight bail? So anyway, this inspired lots of different ideas. And of course, I'm using this keychain as a dangle because I wanted to keep these together, but you could snap this to a beach bag or anything. It'd be so fun. I think one of the most commonly used methods for using beads in albums and journals is to make some kind of a bead dangle. And you can have the larger bead dangles that you clip onto the cover or a spine. You can have a single strand. It could be just a big, huge bead cluster that can be clipped onto a project. Or it could be just as simple as a few beads onto a project. No matter what you do or how big it is, there is one simple technique that you need to learn to create your own, and so I'm going to show you how to get started. So to get started, you're going to need, of course, your beads, and sometimes you need the little seed beads as well. And then you're going to need jump rings. You're going to need jewelry pins or wire, and this is, I think, about a 19 gauge wire. And then optionally, you're going to need a lobster clasp, some jewelry findings, and of course, you're also going to need your tools. So you're going to need a wire cutter. You're going to need these pliers here. I'm not sure what they're called, but they have like cone-shaped ends. And then you're going to need something with a flat surface here, and this one is straight, this one is curved. I don't know what the difference is for. For my purposes, it just doesn't really matter. So I'm going to start off with a regular flat head pin, and I've got one here that I've already made, and this one has it's going to be the same thing that we're doing here. I just used the pin with the loop on the end, but I think this time I'm just going to use, just to show you something, I'm going to use this one. So I've chosen this bead, so when I run that through my pin, it just comes right out the other side because the hole's bigger, and that's very common when you're using the larger beads. So you just want to find some kind of seed bead that would work, and then let's see if that catches. Yep, that's going to work. So just to finish it off, I'm going to add another seed bead on the other side. Now this is where I kind of do a cheat, kind of do my own thing here. So I'm just going to measure a thumb's length away from the last bead, and I'm just going to trim that, which in this case there's hardly any to trim. Then I'm going to take these tools here, and I'm going to start curving that end. And I'm going to press down on that last bead and kind of pull back on the pin away from where I'm curving the loop. I want the loop to kind of end up in the center, that's why I'm doing that. And there I have my first little bead charm. And I'm going to take these flat pliers and just kind of squeeze that loop together. And then to finish it off, I want to have the jump ring, because that's what I'm going to need to put it on a dangle or somewhere on the project. And you just take your jump ring and then have the little opening that's on the top, or where the little crack is. And I'm going to actually twist it open, not pull it open. You cannot pull it apart this way, it'll snap the jump ring. So basically you're just twisting it open like that, and then looping it through here, and then I'm just going to twist it back shut and make sure that that crack is nice and tight, that there's no space there. Sometimes you can push it together a little bit. And there I have my very first bead charm. So now you know the technique and the method, and so everything that I've shown you, you can go from here and do it. So here's another one that I've made, and I've added some bead caps to the bead, and I have a larger one here that I have added some spacers and some bead caps, and the only difference between these and the very first one is that I just added more stuff. So now I'm going to show you the same method, but with using a piece of wire. So it's really the same technique, I just use the wire for very long dangles, much longer than this one I'm showing you here. So I just take the end of the wire and my tool, and I make a small loop, and then I'm just going to clamp that close together there, and then I'm just beading the wire, and then at the very end I'm going to clip that thumb's length off, or past the thumb's length, and then I'm just going to loop that wire, and then on this one I'm just going to add a dangle to the end. So it's really the same method, and it's just as simple as that. So now that you have a better understanding of how the charms and the bead dangles are made, let's take a look again at some of my projects. So I have this bead dangle here with some purchased charms and then some of the the bead charms that I've made, and on this one I have a lot of these, I call them decorative charms because I've added a lot of the bead caps and the bindings. And then I have a cluster as well that I have attached to this bulldog clip. And the bulldog clip just attaches to a little box that I've made, and it just sits on there like that. And there are a ton of beads on this one, as well as purchase charms. And then I also have charms dangling off the ends of the beaded charms because of the little loop there. And so you can see all of the techniques I've showed you. I've got the bead caps, little seed beads at the end. This one has a bead cap and a spacer. And so there's no right or wrong or any which way you have to do it. It's just whatever you want to do, whatever looks good. Now, what I've done to make these clusters is I've taken a chain. I don't know if you can get a good look at the chain here. And I've just taken the jump rings and attached the charms all over the chain. So that's how you make a little beaded cluster. And then this one also, these are also attached to a chain. And this one as well. All these beaded charms are attached to a chain. Now these charms all are just beads and the pins. There's no bindings on any of these. So it's just a different look, but it's both nice. Then this dangle here I have made with the wire, and the same method that I just showed you. I just looped the end of this wire around that teacup and then looped on the top. The center is a boho bead. That's a whole nother tutorial. But I did want to show you what I have on the boho bead because I have a little heart charm here, and I've taken that jump ring and looped it through the knot on this bow here. And then I've taken that really thin wire and wrapped around the boho bead and threaded that with sequins and little tiny seed beads. So there's lots of decorative uses for the thinner wire and the little seed beads. And on this little cute memory decks box, I have beaded dangles on every box, but I've also added something textile to each of these as well. I just love the different mixing different things like beads and ribbons together. So I've got the little tassel on this one, the fabric flower on this one, and then here I've taken a large jump ring and just looped a scrap piece of ribbon and made my own little ribbon charm. So that would be great on like a junk journal or something shabby. And then I have another little box here, and you can see how I've used the bright colored beads that I have in my stash. And here I've decided to use 3 beads in a row. And I've added a little piece of twine to the top on the jump ring. And then this is a pom-pom bead that I've turned into a charm. And that is a purchased pom-pom bead, and they usually come in very bright colors, but you can make your own. So this, I've just taken some bead caps, and then I have a seed bead on the end here, and I've just stuck that pin through it all and made my own pom-pom. So now I want to show you some ideas for using beads that don't involve making a bead cluster or charm. So I have these little seed beads here looped onto a bulb pin, and then also some here that are looped onto a coilless safety pin. And I've got one on every tab here, and then on this last one I have a charm that's in the middle of all the beads. And then I have one on the top here that the charm is just on the end of the pin. So here I have a tag that has the beads tied onto the bottom of the ribbons. And I'm going to scroll out just a little bit. And here I have a bead that has a knot on each side, and that just keeps that bead in place. And this is my closure for my policy envelope. And then one here. And I think I'm going to need to scroll out just a little bit more. Okay, so here I have some charms, and I just wanted to show you that the charms don't always have to dangle off the edges or the bottom. I've just got these right in the middle of the page, and I've just have the jump rings looped into the lace here, and makes like a cute little shelf or something right there. And then you can do something as simple as just one little bead and one little safety pin. So I will put a link to this album as well. In my mind, this is kind of a journal album hybrid, but there's lots of dangles on every page, so you can get lots of ideas on this Alice book. And then going back to my little box here, I have the alpha beads strung along as a little banner, and this can be put anywhere on a project. So now I'm going to show you how I make a beaded tassel. And so I just take strands of ribbon and trim, and these are going to be cut 14 inches, which is probably more length than I'm going to need. So this is not going to be a very wide tassel. I'm just grabbing a few pieces here, but there's no wrong or right to how thick a tassel has to be. It just depends on what you want to do. So I'm going to take one of the jewelry pins and just start poking it through the center of all of the ribbons and just threading them on that way. Now, there was this piece of yarn here that I could not thread through the pin, and so what I'm doing is just taking some tacky glue and gluing it around the pin onto the ribbon that was laid before that. And now I'm just going to continue on threading the ribbon through, and then I'm just going to kind of twist it around, make it nice and full. And I forgot about this one. This is kind of a wider ribbon, and I probably should have put the wider ribbon more towards the bottom, but since I have it on the top here, I just folded it in half there in the middle and just put my pin through the folded ribbon. So I decided that it would be fun to add a charm there onto the beads, and so I put a spacer on top of the ribbon, and then I just got a jump ring and a charm, and I'm just adding the charm to the jump ring now, and then I'm going to loop that over the spacer, then add the beads, and then continue on beading the tassel. So now I'm just making a loop on the top of the pin. As I'm looking at the charm there, I've decided that it needed one more jump ring to make it dangle just a little bit better. So all I had to do was open up the jump ring that was holding the charm in place and add another one in between, and then close that up. So here is a close-up of the finished tassel, and I have the jump ring in between the spacer and the bead, and a couple more jump rings to make it dangle a little bit more. I will leave it this length until I know what project it's going with, and then I may or may not trim it and add something to keep the ribbons from fraying. And I might even tie a couple of beads onto some of the ribbons. So in the description box, I'm going to leave a couple of links to some videos that have some beaded tassels, and then I'm also going to pop in a couple pictures here. This tassel here was made in a more traditional way. So you can see how the ribbons are looped on the top. And then this tassel here, I was able to utilize some skull beads that I got at Halloween time, and so thinking just a little bit out of the box here. And here's another look, and you can see that I've also got a cute little moon charm on the front to cover there. So I want to focus on charms. And so I love putting charms on my tabs, whether it's a planner, a journal, or an album. So I'm always looking for new ways to add the charms to my tabs. So on this page here, I have sewn the charm onto the button and then glued the button onto the tab. And so that's one of my favorites. I love that one. And then I'm going to go back to number 4 here to show you that you can use these number charms for the day of the month on your dailies. And let's show you this one here. So this one, I have charms almost on every layout or page. So this one here, I have just tied the charms directly onto the page with the string. There are no jump rings or anything. Every once in a while you can do a project where the jump rings might kind of get in the way, and so there's no reason you can't just tie them on. And then here I have a number charm for the day. I have a charm on the bulldog clip here. And then this one, I've got the charm looped through the string, and I've just glued that string down. I wanted that to look like a spider web. But the significant thing about this one is you can do this anywhere on the page. It doesn't have to be on the edge. So I know a lot of times we like the dangles on the edge because they dangle down the side. It looks really cute. But sometimes it's fun to put them on the middle of the page as well. It doesn't always have to be on the edge. So I will link to these two projects because there's a lot of charms in them, and you might want to take a look. I have a lot of albums on my desk, so I'm happy to use the floor. Okay, so it doesn't always have to be classic traditional style. You can do the charms with your shabby projects as well. So I've got this little bee charm that I've added to the tab here on the shabby album, and this is just, I don't even remember what this charm looked like originally, but I used some wax on this and just waxed it really good and polished it up and made a little coppery bee charm because I wanted it to match the album. So you can alter your charms. You just have to have the right materials. Some paints just aren't going to stay on the charms. So I have a chain dangle here. And before I get into the charms, I just want to show you how I attach this one because it's a little bit unique. I haven't seen it done this way. I'm not saying that it hasn't been. I'm just saying, you know, I came up with this idea and I thought, hey, this is kind of fun, interesting, and kind of new for me. So I have this chain dangle, and the last link of the chain is in the hole there, and I've got that hole reinforced with an eyelet. And what's keeping that chain from going all the way through is this large jump ring here. And then this is actually a folio, not an album. So on the other side you have a jump ring on the other side of that last link of the chain, and that's what's holding that chain in place in the middle there. And then before I secured the jump ring, I just added this seahorse charm. So I thought that was a really fun idea. I don't do folios all the time, but it's always fun to decorate the inside every once in a while. So okay, getting back to the charms here. So aside from the little seahorse and the starfish, well, and this is a purchase charm as well, but this bottle and these bottle caps are handmade. So these are just from sodas that I drank, and then I punched the circles from the paper collection and then used a kind of medium that glues and seals, like a Mod Podge or something like that, or the Ranger medium. And then this bottle here, you just fill it up about, you don't want to fill them up more than halfway, I would think. And then I used glossy accents on the rim of the jar, and then I glued down the cork and then let that dry for a few hours, and then I screwed in the little eyelet, unscrewed it, added a little bit of glossy accent in the hole. You don't want to fill it too much because it'll squeeze out. And then I screwed that back in and let it dry overnight, and then I had the cutest bottle charm. So I want to show you this bottle charm that I made, and I can't show you the album because it's not my design and I'm not supposed to share that one, but I wanted to share with you this this little bottle charm that I made. So this is like a little chain dangle, and but I thought it'd be fun to add my own little charm to it. So I took a little piece of copy paper and did vintage photo on the edges, and then I rolled it up super tight and then glued it together, and then I did a little more vintage photo on the paper, and then and then just sealed it in the bottle like I've explained. And so this is just such an inexpensive way compared to buying them already made. And then you can personalize it too. You can add your own little trinkets in there too, so it's really fun. So I want to show you this chain closure that I made for this loaded album. And this was so fun to make. And so you can see I have a very decorative chain on the top there, and that is attached to a bulldog clip on either side. And then I have the smaller chain kind of dangling throughout the larger chain, just to give it a little bit of interest. And then I've taken all of those charms and dangled them onto the chain. And so this was so fun. It's a great way to enclose something, maybe a journal that has a lot of pockets and you really want to kind of keep those things enclosed in there. And so I will link to this. I think I've already mentioned I'm going to link to this project, but yeah, this is just another way of using your charms, but it's also a great way of using your chains as well. Okay, so the charms don't always have to be in an album. They can be on your embellishments as well. So I'm going to show you some paper clips. So first I'm going to show you this large one. So this is actually a functional paper clip. Let's see if I can show you here without it being in the way. Yeah, so it's an actual functional paper clip, but you can use it as a dangle. You can use it as just something that sets in your journal. It could be on the cover of your journal. But I've added a little charm here as the point. So anywhere that you can think of to add a charm, that's where you add a charm. I love adding charms. That's one of my favorite things. I'm always trying to look for a way to add that charm. So, and then if you're thinking, well, I wouldn't put that in a journal, you can make this as vintage, as shabby, as grungy as you want. So for those of you grungy vintage lovers, this is for you. So you can do that, and you can even add, you know, more charms down here. I mean, you can just do all kinds of things. So here I have a partially hidden paper clip. So I've got the dangles on the end of the clip here, and so I've got the little bead charm that I've made, and then this beautiful butterfly charm. And then I have an altered paper clip here, so it's wrapped on one side with paper so that it's still a functional clip, And I've just added the charm to this end here. So it just, you know, clips on just like that. And then the little dangles are so fun on the side, right? And then here I have just nothing more than a paper clip with a charm. Now, they don't always have to be actual clips. I have made these paper clips into charms or dangles. They are completely wrapped. And then I've added the charms to the bottom. I've got a little beaded charm here that I've made. And then this one here, I've got a couple beaded charms that I've made to go along with the little arrow there. And then on this one, I'm going to scroll in a little bit. Probably should have scrolled in before. But I have, and they're really hard to see because they're very translucent, but I have strung little seed beads along this clip. So they're just strung along with the string. And so that's a very fun way to add beads to your projects. I know we're talking about charms here, but gotta digress back to the beads for a minute. So I'm gonna pop in a couple pictures, and the first one is a heart that I have made, and I have sewn, and I know they're really hard to see because they're, again, kind of translucent beads, but I have sewn the little seed beads onto this heart. And just about as many sequins as you see, you're going to have as many beads. They're just kind of hard to see. And then it's a great way to add decorate a shabby or vintage element that can have paper on the back, and it can be a removable item that you can journal on and you can tuck in the pockets and all kinds of things. So, you know, that was just a fun, I really enjoyed making that heart. And the next photo I'm going to share with you is some altered clips that I made, and these are actually dangles. And then you can see that on one of them I've strung a little bit of seed beads on the top portion of the clip, so they don't always have to go on the bottom. If you're doing a large paper clip, you can punch an eyelet through the paper and do the charms right there in the middle of the clip. So just think out of the box and get creative with it. So I wanted to show you this album or this journal that my friend Kim made for me, and she's added so many fun little trinkets onto the spine, and I'm not sure if she made this, if it's like a shrinky, or if she purchased it, but I just thought that was so fun. And then here she has a little tiny teeny toy car, and so the point of this is anything that you can manage to poke a hole in somehow, that can be a charm. And then also you can see that it doesn't, there's no theme here, that there's nothing about this car that matches anything else in this journal. It's just junk. It's just fun. So take anything that you find at home and make it into a charm and add it to your journal. It's just so fun, and I'm just in love with this journal. I can't believe that she made this for me. It's so fun. And then I wanted to show you the little charms on the top as well. She's just done a simple beaded charm and then added a letter charm to the bottom of that. And so letter charms are a great way to personalize your journals and your albums. Okay, and so lastly, I'm going to show you another way that you can use your very tiny seed beads. And I like to use them in my shakers. So I have this little tag shaker here that I've made. And aside from all of the sequins in there, I do have some seed beads. And the seed beads can even add a little bit more shake to that shaker. So that's a really fun way to include those. And it's a great way to get rid of your extras. Like you saw that I had that 2 containers of extra mixes of beads, and so that's a great way to use those up, is to put them in shakers. Now, you might be thinking, I don't do this kind of thing. That's not for me. I do journals. I do albums. That's fine. There's no reason you can't incorporate a shaker into your journal or your albums. So I'm going to untie this just so you can get a better look. But I have these little itty bitty seed beads, these micro beads, as well as a few sequins onto this shaker. And it's not very deep. It's just very, that's why the sequins don't actually move. They're just kind of there for look. But this is every much a bit of a shaker. So anyway, yeah, how fun would that be on a little journal page or tag that you put into a pocket in your journal, or you could do it on a writing board, on the front of a writing board, and then use the back, as your flat surface. Or and there's just so many ways you can incorporate that into a journal. And then of course on a album such as this, it's beautiful. It's just a fun element. So don't forget about your little itty bitty beads as well. And so I'm sure there's more, and I could go on and have this video last 2 hours or something, but we're going to end there. And so I want to thank you so much for joining me today and for letting me share with you my ideas for storage as well as for use of all your beads and your charms. And I hope that in the comments you will, first of all, tell me if you liked this video, the content, and also your suggestions and maybe things that I've missed. And I would love to hear from you. So make sure that you comment. And again, I would invite you to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can join me for my upcoming videos. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.